Welcome wherever you're watching around the world. And I've actually worked out we're coming from quite a few countries. First of all, Lucas Moore, who's going to be co-commentating with me, top e-sailer, a huge amount of e-sailing knowledge. Lucas, welcome. You're actually tuning in from Denmark, aren't you?
Yeah, I am. Thank you very much for that
Yeah.
nice
So
welcome.
you're in Denmark. I'm in Poland. The nerve center of the broadcast is in London. The race officers are in Paris. We've got teams in Italy, obviously, and in Spain as well. So welcome to everyone wherever you're watching. Let us know where you are. Get on the chat and say hello. So, welcome to the Petite final, the very last of the finals of the Nations Cup 2022. It is Italy against Spain, the Petite final, or the bronze medal match, whatever you want to call it. This is for third and fourth place. And two of the teams that many expected to see in the final. Instead, we saw that last night. France beating Great Britain 6-3 in a tremendous match. And tonight, Lucas, we're expecting a great match as well between Italy and Spain.
Yeah, most definitely. I think these are also, as you said, one of the, or both teams could have been in the final. They did have some close games again in the semifinal against the two other countries. So I think we could be in for a really nice and close match this evening.
Okay, well, let's have a look at the format. If you've been following the Nations Cup, it is, as you would expect, it's the best of 9 races in a whole set of different boats. The only one that's repeated is the Star class, which is second up and also a little bit further down where we've got males and we've got females. So we split that into basically two match races. But other than that, we're going to start with the 49ers, 10 against 10. We end with the Nacra 17, again, 10 against 10. And then we've got Offshore Racer, J70, the Laser, the Far East, the F50. So lots of different types of boats. And it is really a great way of testing the quality of the e-sailers right across the board, Lucas.
Yeah, it's a lot of different boats. All the boats in Virtual Regatta are very different to sail. So it really does require that you have practiced each and every boat class that they're going to race this evening.
All right, so the sailors are just coming in now to that first race server. So in a few moments' time, we'll be going out onto the water and seeing all 20 of them in action. It's quite a spectacular start, and of course, the 10 against 10 is a spectacular finish to the race as well. Now, both these teams ended their semi-finals. They lost their semi-finals 3-6, and I think you as an e-sailor, you'd agree that both these teams are really going into this. Not with the thought, oh, it's just a bronze medal, but it's about pride and it's about proving that actually, yeah, they missed out on the final, but they should have been there. It's about proving themselves.
Yeah, and I don't think any of them want to finish this regatta on a loss. So it's a nice opportunity to redeem yourself and win this final match of the Nations Cup.
Okay, so obviously with 20 sailors joining the server, we're on the waters, by the way, of Pointe Pitre, the finish point of the Route de Rhum in Guadeloupe. The reason we're on these waters is because France, who were Nations Cup champions in 2021, got to choose the venue, and so they chose Pointe Pitre. Obviously, the Route de Rhum, the transatlantic race that finished a couple of weeks ago. So that's why we are here. And France, of course, getting their second successive title in a row last night. We're on the waters of Pointe Pitre. Now, Lucas, it's just an opportunity. Tell us about conditions and how those conditions work and change within e-sailing.
So for Virtual Regatta, it's very much, I think, a pattern in the wind that you sort of can guess, or you can't guess what's gonna happen next. And all of these players are really experienced, so they're probably all gonna guess the same. Maybe some are unlucky, but it's all gonna be down to how you start and how you manage to place yourself on the first upwind and try to get ahead from the start.
And looking down that list of sailors, some huge names from the world of eSailing. Just pick out a few for the viewers, a few of those names that they should watch, if for no other reason than entertainment and also the chance to learn from their skills.
Yeah, so for example, we have the Lista 71. He's been with us from, I think, the very first World Championship, and he's maybe only missed one in the last 4 or 5 years. So he's one of the very experienced guys. I've sailed against
And
him
winner,
many
of course,
times.
in 2019 from memory. Yeah.
Yep, and right after he opened an ice cream shop. So it's amazing what happens of a of a World Championship win in eSailing.
Uh, okay, well that's one to look out for. And but let's get onto the water now and have a good look at how they are set up. So we are in the 49er for this first race, as you can see. The obviously the Italian boats with the Italian tricolor, the Spanish will be red and yellow like their flag. And 30 seconds to go. This boat looks a little bit static. Here we go. They'll be lining up, jostling for position, trying to find where they want to start on the line.
Yeah, we see this a lot of Spanish boats on the middle of the line to the left-hand side of the committee boat, trying to push some of the Italians' boats, force them into a penalty.
And what about this tactic about speeding up along the line?
Yeah, so we have quite a lot of guys. They try to do this port tack start where you get a penalty 10 seconds before the start, and then once the gun goes, you're out of the penalty, and you're already on the right-hand side of the course. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It's very 50-50 if the other team tries to cover that tactic.
Well, there was a whole load of penalties on that start line. Ramon is currently suffering from a penalty that's now cleared, but he's well back in the fleet. Nauzet and Prodigo out in front in this very early stages of this Petite final between Italy and Spain. The bronze medal regatta to decide who will be third and fourth in this year's Nations Cup.
We see the wind is slowly shifting to the left, and a big dark stripe is coming down the race course from the right-hand side. And it looks like most of the players have actually gone all the way left and are looking for a very good lift up to the windward mark. Looks like we have a couple of Spanish boats in the lead at the moment, but closely followed by the Italian players.
Yep, only 90 meters separating first from last. 49 are one of the fastest boats, of course, in on the Olympic circuit. You can hit 23 knots downwind, but it's the upwind that is crucial.
Yeah, especially in this boat, well, wind shadow isn't as big, and it's quite hard to cover your opponents on the downwind. So you really want to try just hold your position on the downwind and then go all out attack on the upwind, which has worked out quite well for the Spanish. It seems like two boats in the lead. Unfortunately, a penalty for Marina, but it looks like she's going to have some hope coming up from behind.
So it was a Spain 1-2 at the top mark, but Prodigo putting a penalty on one of them. So the Italian moves up into second. And then look at that block of green, white and red between 6th and 9th place, including the Lista 71 as they come round, giving each other penalties where they can to slow down their opponents. And always at this point, we remind everyone that this is a team race. So it's not just about blasting off to try and get first place. It's also about looking after your teammates behind you.
Yeah, it's very much about the teamwork. It looks like the Italians have done a really good job at just staying close to the front Spanish guys and also managing to push back a lot of Spanish boats that are currently sitting in the last couple of positions in this race. So I think it's a favor to the Italians at this point of the race.
So the Italians just about in control of the race as things stand, but there's still half the race to go, and we can see those dark sails now heading upwind closest to us.
A lot of penalties out the gate, but that's usual for the 49er. The boats are so fast, and it just gets nearly impossible to avoid the other boats when you're 10 boats heading into the same gate mark at 20 knots.
So Prodigo of Italy out in front, 21 years old, from Naples. The M stands for Mario Prodigo. And he is being followed closely by Catucci, his teammate. But look at this. We've got Nozate coming up. We've got some Spanish challengers closing in on the leading Italian boats.
Good job from Petite, just trying to force the Spanish boat to do attack back into the fleet. Looks like he's also stuck in the wind shadow of Catucci. It's a good job from the Italians on just trying to slow down the Spanish and get their own teammates further up the ranking.
Okay, look how they've bunched up together as they approach this top mark. And what that means is that this race is still very wide open as they hit the downwind leg in a moment. But it's Catucci of Italy and Prodigo of Italy in first and second. And they start to pull away. Agoné of Spain trying to keep up with them, but already a 20-meter gap. And you're going to see as they turn downwind, they're going to accelerate away and try and make as much distance as possible from the chasing Spanish.
So we see in the background a lot of yellow kites in the back. They've really got to try fight their way back into this race, or else it looks like it's going to be a hard one to win currently for the Spanish.
A lot of traffic following behind the leaders, and I think the flag colours on the left-hand side on that leaderboard is very telling. You can just see how Italy are dominating the leading 10 positions. This is going to be a good start for the Italians. Got a little bit of a fight going on between these two in the middle of the course. The Italian getting away. And I think they've disengaged now.
Yeah, it's a difficult task. You don't want to be fighting too much and letting the front Italian boats just sail away in the distance. So you really want to try have some guys going as fast as they can and other guys just initiating these attacks and trying to get the Spanish or the Italians to slow down.
So our leaders have crossed the finish line. Race number 1 won by Catucci, Prodigo in second, Gattanuda of Italy in third. So a really resounding victory for Italy. We'll wait for confirmation, obviously, from the race officials for the final overall score. But it looks good for Italy, who get first, second, third. Then there's a Spanish boat, fifth, sixth for Italy, a lone Spanish boat. And then we've got a group of Spanish, 9th, 10th, and 11th. But I think we can be pretty sure that that first point goes to Italy. And if you're new to the Nations Cup, it's 9 races in total to decide the regatta. Confirmation that Italy have now gone 1-0 up, and it is the first to 5 that will win the bronze in this year's Nations Cup. So well done to Italy, and a really impressive performance in that first race, Lucas.
Yeah, it looks like the Italians did a really good job at catching the 2 leading Spanish boats, overtaking them, and even managing to push the rest of the Spanish players to the back of the fleet. So I think all in all, a really solid race from the Italians in this one.
Well, so much for the 49er. We've got plenty more fast boats coming up, but next we're going to enjoy a match race in the female 1 against 1 in the star class, and that is a very different boat, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a lot slower. It's a bit more. I think it's a bit more about your individual skill because the racing is really close, especially the downwind. It always comes down to that blast, exciting downwind, hopefully also in this race. But you really got to try keep your cool and not do any silly mistakes and get a stupid pen close to the finish line.
Yeah, we'll discuss the importance of the downwind in a moment once we get out on the water and we see them in action. And also, in these Nations Cup matches, you just can't underestimate the pressure that is on the players. So we've got Habibro representing Italy and Marina Garau representing Spain. And I was talking about the pressure. Basically, you've got the eSailing world watching you, and there's no hiding, is there? Because it is just 1 against 1.
I think the worst part is actually all your teammates, if you're in the same call, and they're all spectating the race, and then sometimes you hear them discussing the move you've done, discussing if it was actually good or how bad it was. So it's all about just trying to keep your cool and not get distracted. That you do have a lot of people watching you in this 1 versus 1 race.
Okay, looks like we're about to start the start procedure. We're going to get that underway very shortly. The clock has begun to count down. It turns red, and we are away in the pre-start. And it's all a bit cat and mouse, lots of maneuvering and tacking and chasing of each other going on. Talk us through that.
Yeah, an early penalty for Marina. It looks like she didn't have the cross on Habibro there, but what we're going to see is the two boats fighting until the start, trying to force a penalty on to the opponent, so you can get that fast lead in the race and being able to control the other person on the first upwind.
All right, 20 seconds to go. It's getting tighter out there. The pressure is on. Penalty on Marina Garau. And they're really fighting over in this committee boat end of the line. Looks like this is where they want to be. And
Yeah, so Habibro is really just trying to stay on top of Marina to keep her in the penalty. And now she's just accelerating away and getting a nice lead so she can control the race from the get-go.
So we are away in this second race in the star class in the Petite final. And look at that. What a lead already from the Italian.
Yeah, it looks like she thinks that there's going to be some change of wind on the right-hand side. Currently we have a good left shift. She's trying to cover up the Spanish, forcing her out to the left-hand side, it looks like. So really some good thinking from the Italian side early in this race.
By the way, just looking at the confirmation of the score of that first race, it was actually quite a convincing victory from Italy, 91 to Spain's 119. But let's get back to this one as Marina Garau tries to catch the Italian, and the Spaniard will know that the wind shadows around about 30 meters on the star class when they head downwind. So she really wants to stay within this sort of distance in order to be able to catch the Italian when they round that top mark and head downwind. So Marina Garau nicely placed as things stand.
Looks like Anna has tacked just under the ley line. Maybe looking to see if the shift goes back to the left. But Marina continuing all the way to the ley line, so she could be a bit closer as Anna has to do these 2 extra tacks coming around the windward mark.
Habibro of Italy is Lucia Zane, 19 years old from Venice, and kind of amused to see that her favourite boat is actually the F50. You couldn't get a very different sort of experience between the F50 and the Star, really.
Yeah, I guess it's the exact 2 opposite ends of the spectrum in eSailing. 6 knots versus 50.
Okay, I'm seeing them go around this top mark, the Italian in the lead, but there's only about 20 meters between them. And I think we're going to see that white wind shadow, that turbulent air is going to start having an effect. And we're also going to see the yellow boat accelerate and will accelerate away and close on Habibo.
Yeah, once again we see the fast jibe out to the left-hand side, just trying to keep in control of that starboard advantage on the final jibe into the gate. And it looks like Marina's done a really good job of catching up. Now she just eases her sails, maybe not what I would have done in that situation. You always want to just try stay as close as possible and try to push the other player into an error. Looks like she's actually gone too far and Anna's managed to get overlap and pen the Spanish boat, and she could just be cruising along down to this bottom gate.
Cruising down. So my prediction that the Spaniard was in a good position to catch the Italian didn't come true. But now they've split. They've chosen different marks, and we will see who took the right decision as they work their way up and will come together in a cross, and then we'll see just how close they are. And at the moment, it looks like that small gap between them has been closed by Marina Garau.
Looked like Anna was actually very well in control of that race, but I think she might think that she's going to get some more breeze on the right-hand side as she tacked over. So still all to play for Marina in this race. Still only 2 meters separating them. And we all know that you need at least around 30 to 40 meters to stay out of that wind shadow. It's going to be interesting now if Anna is going to continue all the way to ley line or if she's going to just tack right under and hope she's going to get a small lift, so she sails the shortest course as possible.
Yep, we'll follow this as they work their way along that ley line to the top mark. And where would you want to be in this situation, Lucas?
I think currently I would like to be in the Italian spot. It looks like Marina has to do 2 extra tacks to get around this windward mark, so Anna could get a nice lead on the downwind as there is some breeze picking up on the left-hand side that she could get straight into after bearing away. But I think it all depends on where you're most confident. If you're most confident in defending or if you're most confident in attacking. I know that some players they don't mind being behind on the final downwind, so it's just all about for them just staying close.
It's at this point in the race that often the one-to-one star class races are decided, that final downwind leg, as we see the chasing boat doing battle, getting closer and closer and closer.
Yeah, we actually had a small mistake from the Spaniard, just hitting the mark and making life a bit more difficult for themselves. But it looks like she's still very much in control and having the Italian in her wind shadow.
Well, let's see, because that could have been a crucial mistake. but the distance she lost, she's made up already. You can see the finish line on the horizon. That's where the Italian is trying to get to. She's now trying to push the Spanish boat away, and the Spanish boat maneuvers round behind her, and you're going to see her close in, but she's got to be careful how she does this overtake, not to pick up a penalty.
That's really unfortunate for Marina. Just getting a bit too close without the proper overlap, maybe hitting the Italian boat from behind and
we
getting
see it
yourself a
time
penalty.
and time again in the Star. The battle gets really close, the pressure is on, and the chasing boat chases and chases and pushes and eventually picks up a penalty themselves. But there we go, victory to Italy in their second race. Habibro of Italy wins it. Look at the margin though, so close over Marina Garau. Any stats there that jump out at you?
Well, we do actually see Marina on most of these stats, but we also do see Anna on the shortest distance sailed and the best start, and that turned out to be quite important in this race, staying or being in the lead from the get-go and just doing very well to defend her leading position.
All right, and there you can see no overtakes. Bit of a mixed up graphic there, but anyway, a fascinating race. Very different, isn't it, from the fast 10 against 10s. And Italy now 2-0 up against Spain in this Petite final. So 3 more victories for Italy will seal the regatta, which is easy for me to say, but there's a lot of quality sailors standing in their way. We've got the Offshore racer next, the J70 and the Laser. Those are the next 3 boats to be raced. Well done to Italy, 2-0 up against Spain now. So we move to the Offshore racer, Lucas, and what are the things to look out for in that?
So this is one of the larger boats in Virtual Regatta. One of the it's slower at maneuvering than many of the small boats that we all know.
Yeah, so you've got to be careful, haven't you? Because that you might think, especially if the last race you did was in the 49er, you think, oh yes, I can just squeeze in there, but actually the boat doesn't react fast enough, and you end up picking up a penalty.
Yeah, especially on the upwind when there's a starboard boat approaching you, and you're in port and you want to try to duck behind. It can be really annoying to find yourself in a longer boat and you don't really see it, and then suddenly you've hit the stern of the starboard boat. So you really gotta watch out when you're in these close battles.
So it's 5 against 5. So if you want to do the maths at home as the race unfolds to work out who's in the lead and who isn't, basically you need 27 or less to win this. So you just add up the positions, and if a team's got 27 points or less, then they are in the driving seat to win the race. So 5 against 5, and just having a look down there, some interesting names, Lucas.
Yeah, we have a couple of well, we do have 2 world champions in this race, Carlos Parejo and Velista 71, and we also have some world finalists. So some high quality players in this race, and hopefully they show us some of their many talents in this game.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you could read that because I can't actually read that graphic at the moment. There's a bit of interference on the picture. Now I can. So I'm seeing those players as well now. All right, so we're into the pre-start sequence. It's the first 5 against 5 that we've seen, and the only 5 against 5 in the regatta. What strategies and tactics would you expect to see?
Well, I think we're going to see some more classic team race tactics. Now we're only 5 boats on each team, it's way easier to count your points during the racing. And we also see the boats slowly approaching the start line here with 15 seconds to go. Penalty for Carlos Parejo, just getting forced up, had to win by an Italian boat.
Yeah.
And
So
it
keep an
looks like
eye
he's
on.
actually gonna hand the penalty back to Amos, and it's gonna be a somewhat even start at the moment. 3
3 boats
penalties for
penalised
Italy.
on the start line, including Velista 71, our former world champion. Carlos Parejo is in the mix there, and a fairly even split across the race course there, with the yellow boats of Spain leading the charge.
Yeah, so currently it looks like we have 2 Spanish boats in the lead, and Italy have a boat in 3rd place, just being able to block the two Spanish boats on the left-hand side, also handing out a penalty to one of them. So it's very important just to have at least one of your teammates in the front being able to hold out the Spanish boats and helping your teammates getting back into this race. But it is looking very good for the Spanish at the moment with the top 4 positions.
They are nicely placed to block the way to any Italian boat wanting to come in. 2 Italian boats on the far side of the screen. Be interesting to see when we get the different angle as they come into the mark to see exactly how far away they are and if they can challenge those leading yellow boats.
Yeah, nice stuff from Nauset, just giving a pen to Petite. Looks like we have a small penalty for the Spanish, probably just hitting the mark when going around it, but it does look very good for the Spanish at the moment. It looks like they have 2 boats that are just able to hold up the Italians and letting their 3 teammates just speed away and hopefully get as far enough away so they won't get interfered by the wind shadow of the Italians.
So Spain in control of this race as they head downwind for the first time, but the Italians are going to start spoiling tactics at the back of the fleet as they try to chase those rear Spanish boats. The rear Spanish boats also go into sort of a defensive attack in order to try and stop the Italians catching their 3 leading boats, because if Tyr, Luis and Carlos stay in the top 3, that'll be enough to I would expect that would be enough to win this tie. So the Italians now some distance behind the leading 3 boats.
Yeah, so 1, 2, 3 gives you the room to have whatever positions of the 2 remaining players. So a really good job from the Spanish, just being able to pull away and then having some good 2 remaining teammates just fighting for their life, trying to slow down the Italian boats.
We're in the offshore race in this 5 against 5, and Spain really dominating from the very start. They had a good start and they managed to get ahead, and they are now holding that lead, and that should be enough to get them a victory as we watch them come up to the top mark once again. And there you get a really good idea from that aerial view of the distance that the Italians have to make up to catch the 3 leading boats.
Just under a 100-meter lead currently for the 3 leading Spanish boats. And it looks like the Italians are going to have to try survive in the wind shadow coming up to this windward mark.
Well, Nozet and the other Spanish boats can afford to finish in 9th and 10th if the leaders remain first, second and third, all Spanish. So Spain looking like they're going to get this victory as the Italians get caught up in this fight at the back, but really what they need to be doing is chasing down the leading 3.
Yeah, it really looked like Anna had no choice but to get that penalty, and now Seth is just doing all he can to extend that distance for the remaining boats, and just making sure that the Italians at least get that last place.
Italy in 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th, including Fujivia. The oldest player in this Petite final at 59 years old, Michele Rossi from Genoa. Has he got the puff to catch the leading 3 boats from Spain? I don't think so. I don't think there's anything anyone can do, whatever their age or experience, because that was a fantastic race tactically from the Spanish, and they're going to get 1st, 2nd, and 3rd with Carlos Berrejo, Luis, and Tia, as we watch the 2 rear boats, Nauzet and Habibro, going at it on this final leg, and neither of them wants to be last.
A really good job from the Spanish. Just really good start, managing to put 3 penalties on the Italians, and just being able to be in control of the race from the first upwind, and showing that they are really in contention to win this bronze medal at the Nations Cup.
So you able to explain what exactly, what they did to take control on that start line?
I think they did a good job at not being at the line too early, and just waiting
Sorry,
for...
just to interrupt. I just love that finish. They absolutely fought it all the way to the end. Sorry, carry on, Lucas.
Yeah, it looked like Velista came back to try help Anna, but unfortunately he did get the last place himself.
So Spain finish with 20 points in total, and that's enough to give them the victory, and that will bring the score now to Italy 2, Spain 1. Of course, this is a repeat of the Petite final from last year, which Italy won. So will we see a repeat of that, or will Spain fight back? You can see in that graphic, that's a graphic of the overtaking and the position changes, and you can see really at the back of the fleet the sort of fights and tussles that were going on. But what a clear race those leading 3 boats had. Great performance from Spain.
Yeah, we do see that they did have the lead from that start, and just a very good job at controlling that race, like we saw the British do yesterday against France.
And I imagine the Spanish have given a sort of collective sigh of relief, because you don't want to see your opponents get to 3 or 4-0, because then the pressure just becomes, well, you start making mistakes, don't you?
Yeah, or some players do. Some of them have been in these World Championship finals, but the rest of the team...
But some players have nerves of steel, like yourself, Lucas, and it's just, they're always calm, and they just go out there and they do their stuff. That's the same in any sport, and at any level. So,
yeah, of course.
Anyway,
the more finals you've been in, the more you're used to the pressure.
Yeah, congratulations to Spain. So they've got 1 on the board, so it's 2-1. And we've had 3 of the 9 races that we're going to watch today. The J70 is next. That one is 4 against 4. You can actually get a draw in this format. We'll worry about that if it happens, because there is a slightly strange rule as to who will win it if it is a draw. But the J70, how does that differ, from the offshore racer we've just seen?
So the J70 is probably one of the most raced boats, also for team racing in eSailing.
One of the favorite boats, isn't it?
Yeah,
I
think a lot of these players have spent many hours doing team racing in the J70, and it's small, it's fast, it has good maneuverability. The hoist of the spinnaker is really fast as well, and it's just one of the most perfect boats.
And a new skin for the Italians in the J70, flying the the flag, so to speak, of their national federation. And looking very smart, I have to say. It's cool that you can change the skin, the look, the colour of your boat, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a nice addition to this year's Nations Cup. I guess it also helps just building that team feeling inside the Italian team.
All right, 30 seconds or so to go. And what's this boat doing so far away, so close to the line, but yet so far from the start, time-wise?
I think he's. It looks like it's one of those port starters that we have, and it looks like he's just lining up to get a penalty at 10 seconds to go. Yep, perfect timing. Crosses the line, gets the penalty, and he's now ready to start on port tack. And it looks like he's gonna go fast out to the right hand side to get that right hand shift. So,
but wouldn't you expect those who have come in already at speed from further back to get away faster than someone who's basically going from zero?
yeah, but you don't go exactly from zero, and the J70 is quite fast at accelerating, so you don't get penalized that much from starting with a penalty, and that's also why you try time it so your penalty runs out as soon as the gun goes. But it looks like a nice start from the Italians. Looks like they have the top three positions currently, and hopefully they can be able to control this first upwind and get some players away.
Well, she probably didn't thank me for it, but I highlighted I highlighted that Fujivia was the oldest in the last race. Well, we've also got the youngest, or one of the youngest anyway, in this Petite final, the Lista 42, 18 years old, the Italian, who is currently leading from... he's Lorenzo Sorrenti is his name. It's always good to have a name, isn't it, to these gaming names. So Lorenzo is leading Italy at the age of 18 in this race. Pimpi is second and Fujivia is third. So a great start from the Italians. Quite reminiscent of the great start that the Spaniards had in the previous race.
Yeah, it looks like the Spanish are going to have a hard time coming up to this windward mark. It looks like we could have 4 Italian boats in the lead as they start tacking over on port tack. So that could be some good news for the Italian team.
Yeah, and I'm noticing the wind strengthening on this right-hand ley line as they come into it. And this boat closest to us is going to get a few... It's going to notch up some knots coming up to the top mark, up to 6 now for the young Velista 42. And of course, it's the downwind legs that will often make the difference in the J70 between winning and losing. But Velista 42 couldn't have done much more in this upwind leg, and he has built up a pretty reasonable lead at the top mark ahead of teammate Pimpi.
So it'll be interesting to see now if the Italians are going to start slowing down some of these last Spanish boats, and if they're just going to try seal the race win from on the second downwind.
Well, first and second, or first and third, will win it. So Italy in a dominating position. We're only a quarter of the way through the race, though, and here we come. We've got the challenge. You said, will they try and slow down the Spanish? That was definitely a one-on-one challenge from Fujivia on Carlos Parejo.
Looks like they have a nice, nearly 100-meter lead now. The leading pack. So we're probably going to see Fujivia just doing their best to slow down the Spanish boat, get them to do loads of jibes, and try to push them out to the wrong side of the race course.
It's actually Carlos Paz, isn't it? Just couldn't quite make that out. Agony is Agoné is 5th. But yeah, those boats in 7th and 8th have everything to do in the second half of this race. They need to work their way up through the fleet if they want to catch the Italians.
An Italian 1, 2, 3 coming around the gate now. Hopefully the Spanish can find some extra speed or some magical wind shifts to get themselves back into this race. But at the
And
moment,
of course, it was Italy 1, 2, 3, 4, but Fujivia decided to sacrifice that position in order to come and disrupt the boats, the Spanish boats nearer the back of the fleet. And he's doing just that, inflicting another penalty.
just trying to make sure that the Spanish have at least the last place at the moment, and that's why it's important to have a really solid team, and you gotta be sure that everybody has a skill to pull out a mark trap when it's needed the most, because it's very hard to control who you want to be in the lead. You never know if they're gonna get an unfortunate penalty or make some kind of silly error.
Absolutely. But a really great performance from Velista 47, leading his team. And the gap closing now between 3rd and 4th. Are we going to see a sudden change? Are we going to see Spain become the disruptors and start to ruin the Italian party?
Looks like it's gonna be difficult, but there is some small wind shift happening out on the right hand side that the Spanish could maybe help them, but it doesn't look like it at the moment.
Yeah, you can see from this angle actually just how much room the Italians have managed to put between themselves and the chasing Spanish boats, and I don't think there's any risk of Velista 42 being caught now. He could sail straight into both marks, and he'd still have time to get away and win the race. So here we go with Carlos Paz, Agoné, and Luis of Spain trying to make up that distance.
Looks like the Italians are also going to get some nice wind to just speed off in the distance on this final downwind. And Fujivia has done a really good job at slowing down the Spanish players and making it an easy race for his Italian teammates.
Round they go, launching their spinnaker. It takes about 3 seconds, doesn't it, to get that spinnaker out, or for the spinnaker to have an effect, which is why they launch it a little bit earlier to help them around the mark and speed up all the quicker once they're on that downwind leg. But here we go with the 3 leading Italian boats. Velista 42 brings it to the finish. And I love the skins. I love that red, white and green spinnaker.
It's going to be
second.
It's a nice touch to the game with country flags on the spinnakers and custom colors for the teams.
So the 18-year-old crosses the finish line first. Then comes 51-year-old Nacra from Venice in second place. And then it's going to be a third place for Italy as well. And then we will see the Spanish cross the finish line. So another convincing victory for Italy, bringing their score now to 3-1 over Spain. And compliments to their sailing and their tactics.
Yeah, they did a really good job at this race. Just having a good start, the port tech start worked out really well for them. And then they showed that their team is just really solid, and everybody is able to pull off a mark trap and slow down the opponents.
Total of 14 points in the end for Italy, so a convincing victory in this J70 race, 4 against 4. Well done to them. And so far, out of the races you've seen, we've had 4 races now. Has any of the sailors sort of impressed you? Have any of them stood out particularly for you?
I think it's more just the team efforts. We've seen some really good teamwork, and just being able to finish a race with 3 of the same team in the lead just shows that both teams have got it in them to win this bronze medal fight. But the Italians sure have shown the best racing so far.
So, with team strategies and tactics so important in these races, I'm sure every team has its own way of doing it. So let's talk about, your team, Denmark. How do you decide this? Is it a meeting beforehand, 5 minutes before a race, or are you just talking it through as you race, making it up as you go along?
For the Nations Cup, there is a limit to how many races you can do. I think it's 5 for the playoff stage. So
yeah,
you gotta have a list of the sailors that are gonna be racing on the day, and then you gotta find out, or I usually ask what boats people want to race and which boats they're not really fond of racing. And then we try mix it up and trying to make sure that we have a nice and even team in each of the different races.
We've got a few eSailing match racing champions in both teams. But do you find that, the match racing in the star class, people just put their hands up and go, yeah, I want to do it? Or is it sort of, oh, I'm not sure I want to be out there on my own? Do you have to volunteer them?
For the match race, we usually pick the most skilled player, as it really just does come down to how many hours you've spent in virtual regatta and how well you know the rules and when to enforce them on the opponent. But we've had a
Okay,
nice combo.
so 4 races down, we carry on the program with the next one. It's the laser, and that is 3 boats against 3 boats. So again, sort of there's one less on each side. Are the tactics any different from the 4x4?
For the 3 versus 3, well, if I say this, then it will just sound stupid, but it's just really important to have a first position. But both teams have managed to have 3 boats in the lead in the team races that have been with less than 10 boats. So it's going to be interesting to see if this race will be a bit closer than the 2 other races we've had.
All right, so we're away, and we've got the list of 42 in action again. Fujivia in action again, and Orihuel of Spain with Jose Pereiro and Carlos in the Spanish team as well.
Currently,
I
it
was just
looks
trying to make out the names on the screen, which weren't very clear to me for a moment there. But it looks like there's a battle going on that left-hand side between those two boats, the yellow and the black boat.
yeah, it looks pretty even at the moment. Maybe the Italians have the better positions currently. Being on starboard tack, you're able to block your opponent from tacking over to port tack. And now with the wind shifting a bit to the left, it looks like the Italians have the lead at the moment.
So our leading boat is actually his name, Amos, and he's from Rovereto. and finalist this year. One of the finalists that we have in this Petite final, who will be competing in January in the eSailing World Championship final. Let's see how he performs here, as he is shadowed by those two Spanish boats to his right, Orihuel and Parejo.
Yeah, and the Laser is one of the more interesting boats. The hitbox of where you can get a penalty from on the boat is a bit funny at times, so you really want to try to be 100% sure before you either luff or jibe into your opponent. So we might see some funny penalties on the downwind.
So it's going to be close as they come in to this top mark. Now, we're going to see this boat sneak in and round that mark on the inside. I think Orihuel is in a great position. He's placed himself well. The 17-year-old from Sevilla picks up a penalty, though, from Amos. He turned just in front of him, didn't give him enough room. And now that penalty has slowed him down. But is he going to get round that top mark in the lead? No, he doesn't.
Spanish are actually in a really good position
here
at the moment. They have Carlos in the back, just being able to hold up these two Italians while his teammates can do all they can to grab that first place back from Amos. Probably going to see another mark trap. Just trying to get as many meters between him and the three leading boats as he can.
Well, you didn't want to sound silly by saying this, but I'm going to repeat it. Basically, you want to be first in this, because as long as one of your teammates doesn't come last, if you get that first place, then you're going to win it for your team, which is why we're watching these battles going on at the rear of the fleet, because Carlos at the back does not want to be at the back. He needs to get ahead of at least one of those two Spanish boats, one of those two Italian boats, and Velista 42 was doing everything he could to stop him, but he's picked up a penalty, and that means that Spain are now in control of this race.
Yeah, and it looks like the two other Spanish boats have done a good job at overtaking Amos for the moment, but you never know with this left-hand wind shift if he's just gonna be speeding back into the lead. But a good job from Carlos, just making sure that they have plenty of time to work with, as he has slowed down the two Italian boats quite a lot.
We're barely over the halfway stage of the race, so there's still plenty to race for, and that is why there's this fight going on between Carlos and Velista 42. Carlos wanting to make sure of his position, trying to damage Velista 42's race as much as possible to give himself breathing space.
Yeah, really good job from the Spanish. Looks like the two leading boats also in a close fight with Amos at the moment. And
Carlos
just doing
in the controlling position, forcing Velista 42 out and beyond the ley line. And how far is he going to take him?
Could be going forever. I think he's just trying to make sure that he has no way back into this race.
At this point, wouldn't it be beneficial for Velista to say, what the heck, I'm just going to turn and pick up a penalty?
Yeah, or just turn and just be in the wind shadow. I don't think they're very far from the ley line now, so it doesn't really matter if he tacks into the wind shadow or not. Carlos is just gonna wait wait
And you
until.
could really see at that moment, you were talking about the wind shadow, you could really see when it took effect because the yellow boat accelerated away at the head of the Italian boat.
Yeah, not much Valista's 42 could do in that moment.
I wonder if we can. Let's fly to the to that top mark because they're starting the last leg, and Orihuel and Jesus Pereiro first and second.
So Jay Parejo, he's just gonna try build a gap to Orihuela, and then a third place is enough for them to win the race if they do get first place. So it's going to be very, very difficult for the Italians to claw their way back.
It is. I think this is going to be a Spanish victory. I don't want to, put the commentator's curse on them or anything, but a bit of acceleration there from Amos, using his wind shadow to affect the laser in front of him. And look at that, he's closed the gap. He's picked up a penalty though, and that's given the Spaniard chance to accelerate away. But there's still room on this final leg for the Italian to have another go, and he's going to try. He's going to take on the Spaniard. It won't matter though, really, because Orihuel has just crossed that finish line for Spain in the lead. He takes first place, and the other two Spanish boats have done enough to seal the overall win in this race of the regatta. So it's first and second for Spain. A good attempt from the Italians, but once Velista 42 fell back, there was no coming back really, and the Spaniard controlled him perfectly to the end. So well done to Spain, nicely done.
It did require Amos to just give Jay Parejo a penalty and just try slow him down enough that Fujibia could get back in the race. But it's a short downwind, and with being 150 meters behind, it's a hard task.
So we are 5 races into this 9-race regatta, and it's close, isn't it? Italy 3, Spain 2. The Far East race is next. We'll see how that unfolds in due course. But Italy will be desperate to get another one on the board to give them match point. Spain will be desperate not to allow that to happen. They'll want to even the regatta in the next race. Some interesting, when you look at that, interesting overtakes that proved really important, especially that one on the second leg, and the second leg, the first downwind leg. Okay, so I think what we've seen there is that none of the players are particularly intimidated by the more experienced players, the bigger names. You've seen youngsters from Italy taking on the big names from Spain, world champions, former world champions, Nations Cup finalists, and vice versa with some of the younger Spanish players happily taking on the big name Italians as well. Is there a sense within the eSailing community of, oh my gosh, that's whoever, Velista 71 or, former world champion, or a little bit of intimidation there?
Yeah, I think maybe from some players, but we race against each other all the time. There's tons of community organized regattas where we spend the evenings together, and I think everybody is very, very respectful of each other, and everybody knows that you can really have a bad night, and you can also really have a good night where you just hit all the wind shifts at the right moment. So I think it's
okay. Yep. All right, let's move on. Let's move on to race number 6 in the Far East, and this is another one of those 4 against 4s. 4 against 4, and it'll be interesting to see if the Spanish manage to have as good a start as they did earlier on in the laser, or will the Italians do what they did in the J70 4 against 4 and get the upper hand early on? Go out onto the water whenever we're ready and see how we are set. So the clock's begun, the countdown has started. We're almost into that 1 minute of the pre-start. And what do you think how they're gonna play this pre-start, Lucas?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if the Italians are going to be early at the start line, just lying and waiting, or if it's going to be the Spanish this time. But I think it's very important to try force a penalty onto the opposing team out of this start, as both teams have showed that if they win the start, they might also just seal the race on the first upwind.
30 seconds to go, and we've got a couple of those, a couple of boats engaging there near the start line, the Spanish and the Italian. Right there on the start line now, another one picking up a penalty. We're into 10 seconds now, though, so they're going to try and they want to avoid those penalties because it will have an effect from now. And as you said, we can see them racing up that start line. One of the Italians, the Spanish, getting a good start at this pin end of the line.
That was a really good start from the Spanish. I think they might have the 1-2-3 at the moment. Looks like the breeze is also switching to the left-hand side, so they're going to be just racing out to the right-hand side into the breeze, and looks like they're in a very good controlling position at the moment.
Well, as you could probably guess from the name, Far East, made in China, really popular racing keelboat in Asia. And on the real waters, you got crews of 2 to 5 people. Obviously, this is raced by just the one eSailer. And look how dark that water is now. Really strong breeze coming in.
Yeah, and the Spanish
are out in front and now have taken the first 3 spots. Still very close, of course, but that is exactly where they want to be. And it's all about whether they can now take control of those 3 positions.
Yeah, unfortunately for the Spanish this time, they also have the last place, so it's going to be hard to pick one that's going to have to try slow down the Italian boats. So we're probably just going to see them try go as fast as possible around this windward mark.
Quite similar dynamics, this boat, to the J70 that we watched earlier on. It is a little bit faster upwind though, and especially when you see the stronger breeze coming in as it is doing now.
Yeah, and the Nacra is a bit larger, so the wind shadow is also going to play a bigger part in the downwind. But it looks good for the Spanish at the moment.
It certainly does. Hozut coming in now, and a penalty on Orejuel from Petite, I think that was. And penalties, another penalty on the Italian boat as well. But still, it's a 1-turn early spinnaker launch there.
Yeah, in the virtual regatta, you really want to try just going parallel with the windward mark, or with the spreader mark, and then you hoist your kite and you just speed off in the distance. And it looks like all the players try do it also in team racing.
So Spain, first and second on the first downwind, but it is really close, isn't it? And with a 32 meter wind shadow, these Spanish boats are really desperately trying to keep away from the chasing Italians, but you can see what effect it's having as the Italians accelerate and the Spanish slow down.
Yeah, the Spanish are doing a good job of not letting the Italians come too close yet. And it looks like they'll have the 1 and 2 going around the gate mark, and also the 4th place. It's going to be interesting to see if Orihuela can catch up with Petite and try claim back that 3rd place in the race. Looks like Carlos Paz is going to try go to the right-hand side and see if he can get a small shift to bring him back into the race, and maybe being able to help his teammates a bit. It's quite hard just to be start at the back and then just watch on as the others are battling it out.
Well, Spain in exactly the position they want to be, and if Josuk stays in first and Parejo in second, that will win them this race. No matter what happens behind them, first and second is good enough to seal victory. The battle going on here. The Italian forcing the Spaniard over the ley line, forcing him out. Spaniard takes his turn, tries to escape.
Looks like they're actually just trying to push the 2 Spanish boats into last place, and then we'll have a tie. And it should be that you then lose if you have 7 and 8. So it's looking good for the Italians all of a sudden. Hopefully they can keep Carlos Paz.
So if things stay as they are, then it'll be a draw on points.
Yep, and if you have 7 and 8, you lose. So Orihuela and Carlos Paz, they really gotta just gotta try overtake just one Italian boat to get
so as
this
the leaders
victory.
head down to the finish line, we are watching the rear of the fleet, because the race is going to be decided right here in front of us between these 3 boats. The 2 Spanish boats, at least one of them has to get ahead of the Velista 42.
Yeah, the Spanish boats, they also gotta try to keep clear of each other so they aren't slowing each other down in this hunt for an Italian boat.
Velista 42, bronze medalist at the Italian championships, national championships in the eSailing this year. So he might only be 18, but he knows exactly what he's doing. He's got a huge amount of experience already. You can see the 2 leading boats with the yellow sails heading towards the finish line. But the battle we're watching is this one, as Velista 42 tries to catch Orihuela. And if I'm not mistaken, this is a repeat of the previous race that went to Spain and was won when Orihuela inflicted a penalty on Velista.
Good job from the Spanish, just jibing all they can, trying to force that penalty onto the Italian boat, but actually getting another penalty. Carlos Paz, he's gonna have a difficult time staying, but it looks like Orihuela has done enough. Finishes in 5th position, and looks like a win for the Spanish.
So close, right to the end, wasn't it? Let's have a look at the scores then. So first and second to Spain. Then they got a 5th place, giving them 8 in total, and an 8th place, bringing their total to 16.
Really good job from Orihuela and Carlos Paz. Just staying close to the Velista 42, and that resulting in Petite having to go back, trying to help, and that just lets Orihuela pass him in the last final meters. So a solid job from the Spanish team.
Yeah, a really cool battle from the Spanish. They knew they wanted to get ahead and then just leave it to the rear two to seal the victory. So confirmed, Spain win that 16 points to 20, and that brings the score to 3-all. It's all square after 6 races out of the 9. We are going down to the wire here, and the excitement is building as we move to the last 3 races of the regatta, and the next one is going to be a one-on-one male star class race. We saw the females in action earlier on. That was won by the Italians, and now who is going to win the star in the male category? It's going to be decided out there on the water exactly where we're going to go now. They haven't begun the pre-start yet. They're waiting for the go. That's the race official sailing by on his little blue boat, just keeping an eye on things before they start the race proper.
Gonna have hopefully another exciting star race. 2 really good e-sailers in this race. With Amos, he was qualified for the World Championship final this year, so it's gonna be interesting to follow.
Yeah, well, Nauzet of Spain, 45-year-old from Seville, also has a sense of humour. He's put down his occupation as contract killer. Well, he is going to need a killer instinct in this 1-against-1 to take the victory and put Spain ahead of Italy. Or will it go to Amos of Italy? Let's watch them do battle. 40 seconds to go. And it's a little bit of a dance. It's a cat and mouse chase. It's all about getting into a position that will give you the controlling position once you cross the start line.
Yeah, and we see some nice fighting in this pre-start. Looks like Amos, he's gonna tack away, come back on starboard tack, probably gonna try go for the hook here. Nauzet slowing down his boat a bit too much, just giving Amos enough room to give him a punch. It's a good start from the Italian, going to be in this controlling position on the first upwind.
So a good start from the Italian, bronze medalist in the Italian eSailing match racing championship this year. So he loves his match racing. He's proved himself at national level, and he's proved himself on that start, taking the lead. What can Nauzet do about it?
16 meter lead currently for Amos. Going to tack into the race course now. We might see him just going on this hard cover on Nauzet, trying to push him to the right hand side. But currently extending his lead, Nauzet tacking below him. Not really much else to do than just trying to stay close and hopefully have being close enough to attack him on the downwind.
By the way, I said Nauzet was joking when he said he's a contract killer. I presume he is. Is that? Do I need to worry?
Yeah,
We better start talking him up. Here we go, coming up to the top mark. Amos just in front and will have the advantage rounding that mark. But of course, the downwind leg is all important in the start, and that's what Nauzet needs to do now. He just needs to stay in touch with the Italian. He needs to stay close enough to be able to have some sort of effect on him using his wind shadow when they turn to head downwind.
Good work from Amos, just tacking right on the ley line, just minimizing the amount of nautical miles he's going to sail in this race. Trying to extend his lead as much as possible for the first downwind. It's gonna be a close one, this one, but it looks like we just have enough wind on the race course that's gonna make sure Nauzet is gonna stay stay in range of Amos.
Let's see what happens. There's a bit more wind coming down that right-hand side of the course.
I think he's just got him. So it's going to be a late attack on this downwind. It's going to be just close to the gate.
I think he's 8 knots, I think, for Nausette. And you can now see him close that gap as he slows the Italian down. So what can Amos do to defend that lead?
I think at the moment he's stuck on the right-hand side. Nausette is going to try just sail above him, but a huge love from Amos here, just trying to force Nausette head to win, but Nausette is really close now. He's got the right of way currently, but Amos, he's gonna have the right of way and Mark Room when they're coming down to this gate. Switch of positions. Looks like Amos was going a bit too slow. Nausette has done a good job of overtaking.
The chase has been reversed, and Nausette is now away.
But a nice clean race so far. No penalties on the first downwind.
Nice clean race. Amos trying to get some distance so he can use that clean air, get away from the dirty breeze of the other boat, and he's now in a nice position to try, and if he can get ahead, to affect. I was going to say to affect the Spaniard, but there's attack there, and that changes things as they stay not quite side by side, because the Spaniard has the advantage, but it's so small, 12 meters, there's very little in it. So the boat on the left, the sailor on the left, half the age of the sailor on the right. But that's not saying Nausette is old, it's just saying that Amos is young, 22 years old.
Yeah, and it also shows that the age gap in eSailing it's for all ages, and we've had some young eSailing world champions and some old eSailing world champions. So this sport is really for everyone.
I remember having a conversation with Velista 72, the Italian former world champion, and he's in his 50s now, and he was joking that the EF50 said, "Oh, it's getting a bit of hard work for a man of my age." I think the youngsters are coming through on that one because it's such a fast boat. You need such fast reactions, don't you?
Yeah, you need really fast reactions and fast thinking when you have 19 other boats on the race course.
But on a boat like this we're watching, the Star boat, it's as much about experience as it is about reactions, and it's about strategy and tactics. And right now, the Spaniard has done it right. But here we go. The sprint, so to speak, the sprint to the finish line, the final downwind leg. Spain out in front, but the Italian closing, and it's a reverse of the previous downwind leg when Spain was chasing Italy and then got the upper hand. Can now Italy catch Spain and cross that finish line to take the point?
Interesting tactic from Amos. All the other Star races we've seen, they've started covering the leading boat straight after the mark, but Amos has just kept sailing low, trying to just slowly crawl up to Nausette, maybe just trying not to, or to initiate this fight as close to the finish line as possible. So if he manages to get Nausette a pen, he doesn't have too far to the finish line. But Nausette doing a good job at the moment of just staying out of trouble.
Maneuvering to try and keep away from the Italian, who's doing everything to chase him. But he's running out of time and he's running out of racetrack because the finish line is just there, and it's going to be very tough for the Italian to catch him, and it is a victory for Spain. And so the overall score now goes from 3-3 to 4-3 to Spain. For the first time in this regatta, Spain have the overall advantage. So congratulations to Nauzet, just pipped it. And in many ways, unusual to see when it's so close on the final downwind. It's unusual in the star class to see the leading boat actually hold on for victory.
Yeah, we usually end up with a penalty or two on that last downwind, but Nowset just doing a really good job of staying out of trouble, and yeah, just really good at defending his position.
So just 2 races left. Spain 4, Italy 3. We are going to go right to the end, and this is going to be fascinating, isn't it? And at this point, it's really difficult to call. I can't possibly predict who is going to come out on top.
Yeah, I think this is a 50 race. It's going to be a really exciting one.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the teams, is there within the community, is there a sense that one or other of the teams is best with the F50, or is it fairly even right across the board and right across nations?
I think both nations have had quite a lot of players in the eSail GP finals. So I think they should be fairly even. I've raced against them multiple times and I've lost and won. So I think it's going to come down to this first reach leg and who's going to be able to force a penalty onto the other team.
Okay, let's get out on the water. Let's take a look at who is going to be competing in this F50 race. The really fast former America's Cup, now Sail GP boat, foiling boat. It's 2 against 2. Nauzet back in action. No time for him to catch his breath. Carlos is the other Spanish player. And then we've got Pedrito of Italy and Velista 42. We are just about to start just about to get into the start sequence now. And if you're new to eSailing and the F50, we've got boundaries around the track to keep things close and compact and really fast. And we're going to go on a reaching start. We're going to see them turn any second now and start their approach to the start line so that they cross it as quickly and as fast as possible. And these two dancing around each other, trying to inflict penalties on each other. The darker sail is the Italian, the white sails are Spanish. And look at them trying to get away. So it's almost 2 match races going on in this one race.
Yeah, and especially in the F50, it's just one of the best boats for especially 2 versus 2 team racing. It has some really good dynamics, and it's just both really easy to help your teammate get back into the race, but it's also really easy to lose the race. As you see, 2 boats with a false start, and we know the SailGP rules. Both boats you got to get overtaken or go back to the finish line. Carlos Parejo very fast at that, and we have Nowset in the lead.
So Spain on match
unfortunate.
point, of course. So there's no room for error here for Italy.
Carlos sailing straight into Nowset on that reach mark. But still looks fairly even for now. Both teams still in a good position.
Pedrito rounds that mark in the lead for Italy. Italy have to win this. If Spain win this race, then the Petite final goes to them. They win bronze. Spanish boats looking good. The Italians with everything to do now.
A good right-hand shift. Looks like the list of 42 has decided to tack away from the fleet and is going to try his luck on the right-hand side. And it's all about just doing as less maneuvers as possible, as the boats you really just get penalized by doing too many maneuvers.
Yeah, the boat's so fast, the maneuvers slow you down so much that your opponents are going to speed past you. So as you say, Lucas, the least number of maneuvers, the better. And here we've got Carlos and Pedrito doing battle.
Carlos doing a really good job at making sure Petite won't make this mark, and he's gonna do an extra tack. So currently, Spanish in the better position.
Absolutely, Spain looking really good here with a 1-2, and whoever wins this, either the Italians or the Spanish, they are going to be their team heroes, because if Spain win it, they've won the regatta. If Italy win it, they've kept their team in the regatta. It's all to play for in this F50. No room for error. Any mistakes cost really dearly at this sort of speed. But the distance between them is still close. The Italians look quite far behind, but it only takes the slightest error from the Spanish, and you'll see the Italians close that gap.
Yeah, looks like Velisa 42 just had to continue a bit too far for his liking. Currently, the wind is very much to the right, and they're all heading out to the left-hand side to get that small shift. So not much to do for the Italians now. The Spanish attacking immediately when they see Velista attacking, just to cover him up and make sure he can't overtake them.
It's difficult to see how Italy can get back into this. With Spain holding the lead, Nauzet could finish second or third and still take the victory.
Probably going to see a Spanish boat tacking right on top of Velista. Yep, both of them attacking at the same time. So all they got to do now is just round the remaining marks without hitting them and getting a silly penalty.
Can Velista 42 put enough pressure to force an error out of the two Spanish boats? Both those sailors have been in great form in this Petite final, and it seems unlikely that they're going to throw that away right now. Pedrito 22 of Italy with everything to do. Can Velista somehow disrupt the leading two Spanish boats and give his teammate the opportunity to get in front? It's just one final turn, and then they head to the finish line. It is Spain 1-2, and it is going to be Spain for bronze in the Nations Cup 2022. Carlos and Nauzet of Spain cross the finish line, first and second in the F50. That is the deciding race. That is the deciding result. And that means Spain win the Petite final, third place overall in the 2022 Nations Cup. Well done, España.
Solid race from the Spanish, getting an unfortunate penalty at the reach mark, but just showing their skill in the F50 of just sailing smooth, fast, and with very few maneuvers.
And there'll be huge frustration in the Italian camp, won't there? Because they were, 2-0 up, then they were 3-1 up, and Spain have just won the last 4 races back to back. Not quite sure what happened to Italy.
No, it's nice. I think it's nice for the Spanish to win the rematch from last year's bronze medal final. And yeah, it's eSailing. The races were 2 of the races were decided after the start for both teams, and in the star it came down to 0.1, maybe even less, to determine who was the winner. So it has been some really close racing.
It has, and Italy, a reverse of as you said, a reverse of the Petite final from last year. So they will be frustrated, they will be disappointed, but they have put in some really great racing, some high quality racing. But the racing hasn't finished yet, folks. We've still got the last race. It's the Bonkers race. It's the Nacra 17, the foiling Olympic boat. It's 10 against 10. We get to see, it's the grand finale. We get to see all the characters of the drama together for the final race on the water. And they just go at each other all the way. Can Italy claw 1 point back, or will Spain seal it with a 6-3 victory? Let's get out on the water. Let's have a look. It takes a little bit longer to get this race started because we have to get all 20 boats on the water. You can see they're not all there yet, but they're joining the server very quickly. You can see them joining on the left-hand side as we speak. As soon as we've got the 20, the race officials can start the race, and then it'll be underway. But all in all, Lucas, a really fascinating sort of quarterfinals, semi-finals, a real good build-up of quality, high-class e-sailing all the way through this Nations Cup, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it's been some really good races. It's been a very, very good Nations Cup this year.
I mean, you've kind of followed the competition over the last 3 years, relatively new competition, really, if you think about it. Um, have you spotted a change in quality? Is it getting harder to get into the knockout stages?
I think we've had the same nations in almost all the same years. I think we did have the first year. We had a really big surprise with Japan beating the French
France, yeah.
in the first round of the knockouts.
But
But
what's interesting about that is that was a huge shock, and it was a fantastic victory for the Japanese, who were very much the underdogs. But for France, it was seen almost as a humiliation on their part. But they learnt their lessons, didn't they? They changed something and come back so strong to then win it 2 years in a row.
yeah, I think they must have been doing some training um, the past 2 years. But I think the stronger teams have gotten really, really just really stronger, and we see a lot of new nations as well in the Nations Cup that are having the time of their lives in e-sailing. So I think it's just really good for all levels as well. And
I'm
and
just
yeah,
looking down the list of past draws. We that year, yeah, Japan beating France in the first round 5-4. Your team, Denmark, Poland, Ireland, Sweden, Germany, Switzerland. So lots of teams coming from around the world, and it's hopefully we're going to see more of them join as the years go on and as the Nations Cup develops. We're just waiting. We're missing quite a few Italian players here. I think that's what's holding us up. Just seen a few more join. Um, and I was looking at the chat between the players, some really good sportsmanship between the Italians and Spanish, with Italy congratulating their I was going to say their neighbours, but they're not quite, along the Mediterranean coast, congratulating the Spanish in the chat, which is good to see. We're still waiting for the final few, I think, Italian boats to join. We've got 3, 6, 7, 8. So we're waiting for 2 Italians and a Spaniard to join, and then we can get the race underway. And of course, watching this, you've got to remember also that these sailors, it's a Monday night. They've been to work. This isn't professional gaming. This is professional level, professional standards, but it's amateur because everyone has to go to work, and that also has an effect on how much time you can spend playing, doesn't it?
yeah, it's always in the evening after work or after your studies, and then you also gotta it's gotta suit everyone, and not every country eats dinner at the same time. So we've spent
That's why, in my mind, we do this so late because the Spanish will be going for dinner as soon as this finishes.
yeah, they're
The
for sure
Italians
having dinner
probably,
after.
Yeah, exactly. The Italians probably had dinner just before we started. Yeah, it's great to bring all these different cultures together, but we're still missing 3 players. So are we going to race this or are we not going to race this, folks? It's all very well being on the chat, congratulating your opponents, but I'd rather they were on the server. And we're going to start in about a minute's time. We're going to get that starting sequence underway. How would you like to see the Nations Cup develop, Lucas?
Well, for sure, with more teams would always be nice, and maybe just mixing up the format from year to year, so we try something different.
You
Of
mean
course.
mixing up the types of boats or the number of races?
Well, actually, we did have a mix this year in the group stage. We had a bit less races, so that was nice that you don't have to sit here for 2 hours just racing. But of course, we have the boats that are in VR, but I think a lot of the players from the community have some great ideas of how eSailing can develop in the future.
All right. Well, they can wait until the end of this race because we're about to get it underway. Yes, the race officer has hit the big button. The timer goes red. We're a minute away from the final race. So it's pretty impossible for us without a calculator to work out who's won this. So don't blink or you'll miss it. And if you can work it out before our race officers do, then put it in the chat and we'll see if you're right. And remember to say a quick hello to us, tell us where you're watching from, and we'll try and give you a mention. So here we go, Nacra 17, the last race of this Petite final of the Nations Cup 2022. It's 10 against 10. We're 20 seconds away from that start. The race, the regatta, has been won by Spain, but is Italy going to take the very final victory of the 2022 regatta? So picking up a penalty is an Italian boat there. He's going to cross the line back again, and we'll start at speed on his chosen tack as these 3 boats come out onto the right-hand side, but most of the fleet staying towards the pin end of the line. And look at all those red penalties.
Looks like a lot of penalties for the Italian team. The Spanish once again having a really good start to a race. But it is the Nacra. It is fast, and sometimes it is hard to avoid even your own teammates.
Right, I think I'm just looking down there. I think we've got they've decided to start the race. It's 8 Italian players up against 9 Spanish players. Okay, for this, I mean it doesn't count for the regatta anymore because that's been decided. So we're having a bit of fun here, and the Spanish and the Italians all mixed up. Really, they've shuffled the pack. We've got a block of yellow and red forming around 5, 6, 7, 8. And a block of red, white, and green towards the back of the fleet in 13th, 14th, 15th, and 16th. So the Italians really need to start moving up through the fleet now.
Yeah, looks like we have Spanish in a good controlling position, giving some good, handing out some penalties to the Italians in this first upwind. Looks like everybody has found their place on the left-hand side in the breeze. And we'll just have to see what happens at this first windward mark, if we're going to have any penalties for the port tack boats. Nice lead for the Spanish at the moment. A lot of players coming around the windward mark now. Not many penalties, just a couple penalties. It's going to be hard for the Italians on this downwind, trying to make their way back up the fleet to put some pressure on the Spanish guys.
Yeah, very difficult indeed, but there is a block of Italians just outside the top 5 who will do everything to try and disrupt that Spanish charge.
Some nice fights in the back of the fleet of the Italians just trying to do all they can to claw their way back in this race. Unfortunately, a penalty for Pimpy, and the Spanish just still looking strong.
Yep, Spain looking really good. They're holding those first 5 positions. And from that aerial shot, I love that sort of bird's eye view where you can see it's like the cavalry racing forwards and looking pretty invincible, I must say, as the Italians try to chase them down. Velista 42 leading the Italian charge. Moro Gattanuda, I think it's only the second race I've seen him completing. Pedrito 22. Pimpy down in 16th place. That's Anna Kucha, the 51-year-old, shares her time between Venice and Warsaw. Hugely experienced race officer on the sailing circuit, on the big boat sailing circuit. But look at that. 5 yellow sails come to the mark. Spain very much in control of this final race.
It's Italian boat just trying to find the space around the mark, unfortunately just sailing straight into it. Just Spanish extending their lead a bit. Looks like we have a nice fight in the back with a couple of boats. But it looks like the Spanish win also in this final race. They are even having some fun with some arc traps, just putting on a show here in the last race.
So Spain putting on a show as they head downwind in the final leg of this regatta, final leg of the final race.
And it's a fast race, this one. We've been racing for just 5 minutes and we already have boats across the finish line. So not much time.
So congratulations to Spain. We'll wait for the confirmation, but I think we can be pretty sure that that is going to be a Spain victory, which means the final result of the Petite final will be Spain 6, Italy 3, which doesn't really do justice to Italy's performance, which has been really fantastic. It's been high level, but the Spanish have just managed to have that little bit extra tonight to take the overall victory 6-3, a reverse, of course, of last year's Petite final. So confirmation of the eSailing Nations Cup ranking at the end of this competition in 2022. It's France, of course, are our champions, the only nation to have won it 2 successive times. Great Britain took the silver, Spain took 3rd place, and Italy have finished this Nations Cup 2022 in 4th place. Just let the statistics work through, and then could try and get a word with the Spanish captain Carlos. We're just trying to set that up. It would be great to speak to him. And Lucas, what are your final thoughts really on the Nations Cup and what you've seen and how much you've enjoyed it, not just as a spectator, but as a player as well? Because, of course, you competed in the early stages for Denmark.
Yeah, it's been a good regatta. It's nice to have a time of year where you will get to talk with your fellow eSailors, countrymen. And yeah, you don't see, or at least in Denmark, we don't see them on a regular basis. We only talk over Discord. And then when it comes to the Nations Cup, we're a bit more active and try do some training together. So it's a really nice addition to eSailing that is just not your individual skill it comes to.
We're just waiting for Carlos to come into the program because it'd be good to speak to the winning captain tonight. And whilst we do, is there a race in particular that you've seen in this Nations Cup, not just tonight, but at any point, maybe in the final and that terrific performance from France last night? Was there a race that stood out in particular, or a player that stood out?
I think the French team, Petite, he had a really good day yesterday, just really doing a lot of work for his team. And I know that he also has Tristan by his side, and they usually do a really good job in coaching the other team and making sure there's a good team spirit.
Okay, well, let's not forget we've got the eSailing World Championship final coming up in January. A lot of the players that we saw tonight and that we watched throughout the Nations Cup will be competing in that final. Obviously, the last 10 surviving eSailors in the competition will be joining us in January. More details of that on the various community chats and talk boards, and we'll be giving you more details of that. Almost finished. I'm not sure Carlos is going to turn up in time. He's going to have to press his buttons quite quickly and join the chat as soon as he can. But in the meantime, there we go. Congratulations, Carlos. Great to see you.
Hi, nice. Thank you.
So how was it tonight? Did you enjoy it, or was it too nerve-wracking, too frightening?
No, it's all this racing in this tournament is enjoy, and okay, it's not the same pressure if we went to the final, but it's nice too. And Italy is a really good team, and I think Italy, us, France, and Great Britain can be the winner.
Well, hey, it's a reverse. It's revenge for you on last year's Petite final. That must feel good.
Yeah. We talk about that, and we say that this year we need to win because the fourth is the worst place on a tournament.
So I know you guys are all on this chat, and I know the Italians have been congratulating you, but as a Spanish team, what have you been saying to each other?
Okay. We are very happy. We did a really bad semi-final, but I think it's a very good team. All the people are helping the others, and we are really happy to finish there.
So what next for you? Just before I let you go, Carlos, what next for the Spanish team? And well, are we going to see you back in 2023?
Yeah, I hope, but it's really difficult with the Spanish Federation. We need to fight for have a good team in eSailing, and I hope the next year they change the mind and start again with the eSailing. Okay, this year they don't need a Spanish championship, but I hope the next one can do it and can play the tournament.
All right, Carlos. Well, I'm sure they'll come round. You just keep plugging away, and the best of luck for the next 12 months or so, and hopefully we'll see you in the final in 2023. Good luck, Carlos.
Thank you, and nice work.
Thank you very much. Cheers. And of course, that's part of the exciting thing about eSailing. It's such it's a new developing sport, and it's about trying to get everybody on board. I just want to finish off by saying a huge thanks to all the nations that took part in this year's Nations Cup. So a big thanks and a big hello to Japan, the Netherlands, Turkey, Sweden, Germany, Switzerland, Poland, Brazil, New Zealand, Denmark, and Australia. And finally, the biggest thank you goes to Lucas Moore, who's looked after me over the last few nights. with these semi-finals and finals of the Nations Cup. Thanks, Lucas. It's been great. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you for the World Championship final in January. Keep an eye out for dates and details in the next few weeks. Bye.